Hey everybody, it's Stevie J from AngryMarks.com with your WWE 2013 TLC pay-per-view recap, and they finally pulled the trigger and unified the titles. Not that they haven't done that before. We saw it years and years ago with Chris Jericho beating The Rock and Steve Austin in the same night. But I mean pull the trigger as in they didn't screw us on the end of a pay-per-view. And WWE has done a lot of that in the last 3 months, so it's nice to see that they didn't cop out on the belt unification, they actually went through with it. But before we get into that, let's go over the results really quick, and then I'll give you some thoughts on the individual matches. So here's what happened on the pay-per-view. Fandango pinned Dolph Ziggler off a distraction by Summer Rae in the pre-show match. Roman Reigns missed on a spear and hit his partner Dean Ambrose instead, allowing CM Punk to pick up the win in a 3-on-1 to open the pay-per-view. Despite being put in a sharpshooter, AJ Lee was able to get to the ropes to break it up and then was able to counter a second sharpshooter attempt into a roll-up for the win, so AJ Lee retains the Divas title. Big E Langston pins Damien Sandow with the big ending to retain the Intercontinental title. The tag team four-way comes down to Mysterio and Big Show versus Cody Rhodes and Goldust at the end, but Cody Dust was able to retain. In a bonus match for the pay-per-view, Brodus Clay took on R-Truth one-on-one. He turned on his partner saying that he was a main event player. Tensai walked out, the Funkadactyls walked out with him, and R-Truth was able to pin him after that. In another bonus match made on the pre-show, Kofi Kingston and The Miz were involved in a no DQ battle that really didn't need the no DQ stip because there were no tables, ladders, or chairs used. Miz removed a turnbuckle, ate said turnbuckle, and was promptly pinned. Daniel Bryan came close to overcoming the odds in a 3-on-1 handicap match, but Bray Wyatt was able to hit him with his Sister Abigail finisher and get the pin. And in our main event of the evening for TLC, John Cena versus Randy Orton to unify the WWE Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship, Randy Orton climbed the ladder to get both belts. And now for some additional details. First of all, a shout out to Casey and Joe, who sat at the bar with me watching the pay-per-view and both got really into the matches. They were even betting on the results of the matches and buying each other shots. So big up to Casey and big up to Joe. It was a lot more fun to watch the show with two guys who were really into it and enjoying themselves. Second of all, the Orton-Cena match will probably be the one that gets remembered the most because it was to unify the titles, even though, as noted, they've actually done title unifications before. However, they really did put themselves through hell for this. There were multiple tables broken, there were multiple ladders used, and at one point Orton even handcuffed Cena to the ropes, but Cena tore apart the turnbuckle and climbed up the ladder with the ropes trailing behind him. But eventually, Orton yanked him down using the ropes that were handcuffed to Cena, and I think Cena was supposed to go through a table in the corner, but didn't. He just kind of cracked into it. But that was enough to lay him out, and Orton was able to climb up and pull down the belts uncontested. Didn't need a Triple H run-in, didn't need a Kane run-in, didn't need a Vince power walk down to the ring to help him. Orton did it all by himself, so that should set things up nicely for the next few months for the Royal Rumble and the road to WrestleMania. Orton as the unified champion, the face of the WWE, the guy that the Authority has invested all their time in, and everybody will want to beat him. So, good things going on there. Honestly, though, I think I like the 3-on-1 with Daniel Bryan versus the Wyatt family a little better because the storytelling there is, I mean, it's wacky that Wyatt is this cult leader and is trying to recruit Bryan and yet has to beat him in a match to make his point. But at least it gives that storyline more momentum, whereas if Daniel Bryan just won clean in a 3-on-1, he'd already overcome the odds and there was no more story to tell. And Bray Wyatt is good as advertised. I mean, we all remember when he used to be Husky Harris, but the new look, the creepy music, the cult leader with the two disciples, everything's working. It's clicking right now. So I say keep this going. Have Daniel Bryan find a way to get some revenge. Maybe have him eliminate the Wyatt family in the Royal Rumble. Who knows? Maybe he's even winning a title shot if they're not doing the Shawn Michaels thing at WrestleMania. Personally, I hope Shawn comes out of retirement for that match, but that remains to be seen. Other greatest match on the pay-per-view was definitely the four-way. The tag match was really good. I enjoyed all of the eliminations. I enjoyed the near falls. Enjoyed seeing Cody Rhodes overcome and was able to get the win. So props to them. Goldust sold like hell in this match. He lost most of his face paint. It was coming off every time he hit the mat because he was in there for a long ass period of time. So between the sweat and how many times his face was planted into the mat, there was not much of it left at the end. But there was enough for him to get the job done along with Cody. So props to Cody Dust. The most nothing matches by far were The Miz and Kofi. Nobody cared. I don't know why they even bothered with it. It didn't add anything to the pay-per-view, and the feud between them has just sucked balls from the beginning. Nobody cares about The Miz or Kofi feuding. Kofi, they might care about on his own, but with The Miz, it's going nowhere. And of course, the other bonus match, R-Truth and Brodus Clay. I know they needed to do this to put Brodus Clay over as a heel, so I'm not upset with it. He had to take the loss here. He had to turn on his teammates here. They had to get it done. But again, it didn't add anything to the pay-per-view. It just filled time. Kind of felt like the Divas match was going to be a time filler as well. But Natalya can really work her ass off. And AJ is good enough in the ring that she can be carried and can sometimes even carry other people. So no problem with that. It turned out to be better than expected. So I'm going to say in descending order, the best matches were actually Daniel Bryan 3-on-1 with the Wyatt family, the 4-way for the tag titles, Cena and Orton I'll rank number 3, and following close behind by CM Punk versus The Shield, because there's a nice little tease of Roman Reigns being the split from the group with him spearing his own partner Ambrose, so they could still do the slow burn on it. They don't have to do it until the Royal Rumble, but I expect to see Roman Reigns single-handedly eliminate 6 or 7 people from that match all by himself. That should be the big selling point to see the Royal Rumble, is Roman Reigns finally goes ham on the Shield. So that's it. That's your WWE TLC recap. I'm Stevie J.